Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes from last week?
I move to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we are... Yeah. Okay, we are now going to have public comment period. A reminder, no personal attacks allowed. Anybody wish to address the board?
Yes, please. Michael Fields, Winnebago Township. My wife and I own a farm that produces corn, soybeans, and hay. It's just the kind of place that the land use plan values and that the zoning ordinance is supposed to protect. Even though they had no county permit, Skyline Materials excavated far into our 50-foot setback, and we saw potential for soil erosion. We then turned to the planning and zoning director for help. Completely ignoring the intent of the land use plan and the zoning ordinance, Environmental Services sided with the illegally operating mining company from Iowa against tax-paying citizens of Houston County who had a legitimate complaint. Skyline Materials was given a golden opportunity to apply for an after-the-fact variance, an option not available in the mining section of the zoning ordinance. The ordinance says, quote, when more than one setback standard applies, the most restrictive standard shall apply. Mining operations shall not be conducted closer than 50 feet to the boundary of an adjoining property unless the written consent of the owner of such property is first secured. That's it, written permission. No mention of getting an after-the-fact variance. And even if this option surprisingly did exist, Environmental Services still should have relied upon the most restrictive standard, written permission. July last year, Commissioner Zamiewski noted during a board meeting that this mining company didn't suffer any negative consequence for violating the setback. In response, Bob Scanlon misled the commissioner, saying, quote, what the Board of Adjustment did at the time made it a condition of the variance to go ahead, reclaim that part, slope it back, seed it, and then make that part of the variance. So that has happened, end quote. Well, I can assure you, and I can prove, that almost none of that happened. Environmental Services arbitrarily interprets and enforces regulations and misleads the board when it's convenient. Please stop taking their advice.
Any other public comments this morning? Brian is not here yet, huh? Is he outside the door, Carol?
I'll fight him.
Oh, yeah. Thought I saw him earlier. Had to summon a deputy for you.
Yep. Dick was tying me up, so. Okay. I'm on the agenda today to recommend approval of a revised final for South Prairie Drive, project SAP 28-599-063. After the board approved the final a couple weeks ago, we noticed that there was a supplemental agreement that was not processed. So it was in our system, but it didn't go through the entire steps to get closed out. So because of that, the final that came in with last time was not the final number. That supplemental agreement was for $969. So I'm going to recommend that the board approves an updated or new final with a total amount certified then would be $351,754.31. So the increase of that 696 or 969 over the last one before previously approved.
I move to approve the amended final.
I'll second it.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. And then one of the things I mentioned during subcommittee this morning is that it's getting around to that election time, and we're getting a lot of political signs within our right-of-way. Usually around the beginning of November, or beginning of September, starting to get the signs up there, we send our maintenance staff out there to start pulling signs that are too close to the roadway. So my maintenance supervisor asked me this morning to mention to the board members that any signs that are up close to the roadway, we'll start pulling here tomorrow. I think I'm going to tell them maybe hold off till next Monday or something to start pulling signs. But so if any of you have signs close to the roadway or see signs that are close to the roadway, recommend getting them back, otherwise they will be pulled.
And do me a big favor on behalf of all candidates running, if you do pull signs, call them and let them know that you did pull them. Otherwise, they think they're stolen or they're gone or whatever. So just be curious and call and let people know that they're, and I'm sure a lot of people probably don't even know where the right-of-ways are. I've seen a lot of political signs that I know are in the right-of-way that people just probably aren't cognizant that's where it is, and then all of a sudden they're gone, and there's a lot of money in those signs. So
Yeah.
if you do pull them, just let them know they're pulled and say, hey, we have your signs, please come and get them and place them further back. Or call them and just say, would you please place them further back?
Yep.
But I know it gets frustrating as a person, you put up a sign and it's gone. Is it stolen? Was it taken down? $30 sign, I'd like to at least have it back, and I don't know where it is, so.
Yep, we usually keep them at our shop for a little while. If no one calls us and asks for them, then we'll toss them. And then as far as the right of way, our right of way is jog. It's different on every roadway is different on different stretches. So, it's not like we're going out there and going, our stake is way back there, so we're going to move back. But if it's,
If it's
15, 20 feet back from the roadway, if it's out of the normal clear zone, we're more than likely not going to pull it. If it's within the city, if it's behind the sidewalk, we're going to leave it. But if it's right up between the sidewalk and the curb, if it's up near within, the ditch bottom or in front of the ditch, it's going to get pulled. So.
I think if we just make it part of our record that any candidates need to have their sign out of the right-of-way, it'd be a lot for them to call everybody.
Well, I mean, if there's only a handful of people running right now that, it's not a big deal to call and say, hey, just so you know, you gotta.
I'm not going to call you guys.
Yeah, no, I mean, like some of the other people that, like, we talk to on a daily basis, but I know other people that aren't, that are running for, like, state rep or whatever it is that, or even in the sheriff's race or something. I know Doug's around, Mark maybe don't talk to, but just to get a call and just a courtesy call and say, hey, got a couple of your signs that were in the right of way, just want to let you know.
Okay.
But, real quick, last night, a couple of guys had asked during bowling if that county road project going up Oak Ridge, was that going to get done this year or next year? That was it 2013 or the road project going up there?
Oh, it's
Outside Houston?
Yeah, it's not 13 hell.
10 or is it 10 or 13?
13.
Yeah, it's 10.
Carol, why don't you take it?
Yeah, that one, we're buying land right now. It's
Okay.
looking like we'll probably start right away next spring.
Okay.
So that land acquired. So we're not going to start that project in October and have that hill section open up all year.
Well, because somebody had said they'd heard that was going to get done, and I said, I'm sure it's getting too late because that's going to be kind of a big project. I said, I'm sure it's in the spring, but I'll ask Brian. So.
Yep, we have to follow next spring.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Brian.
Yep, welcome.
Well, we have Bob on for 9:30.
He was here.
While we're waiting, how about unfinished business, since we don't have a consent agenda?
Hey, Julie, we're ahead of schedule.
Roxanne issue, we have a meeting in 2 weeks, Monday.
Well,
Is it 2 weeks or is it next Monday?
No, it's
Okay,
two
thanks,
weeks, I
bye.
think.
Is it?
moving
Let me
along
just-
very well.
Yeah, it says next meeting's, well, Holly sent out Monday the 15th.
Yeah.
It'll be next Monday.
Next Monday. 1 week.
Yep.
I thought we answered it for that day.
I don't know, that's the email that she just sent out this morning.
Oh, okay. Okay, sounds good. I'll update mine next week then,
Yep.
15. Oh, I know it. I have written down the 22nd and 29th, because the 29th, we want to have a technical crew from
Yep.
EQB come and discuss the different issues again. All right, the 15th it is, okay. Highway Department,
I received a call from the auctioneer who's doing the road routes building. And he, as a courtesy call, wanted to let the county know that it was on auction, it's on the auction block on the 8th of October. I don't know how you feel about it. If that's completely done or not. I just might mention it. He's just trying to, he wants to make an audience for his auction, so I don't know if we want to put a bid in.
okay, Bob, we'll go back to permits. We must have had a zoning meeting last week, planning commission meeting.
Yeah, back on August 28th,
It's a tree.
had a variance that was approved by the Board of Adjustment for Doug Sparks. And then interim use permit for Michael Smith, and 2 conditional use permits, one for Stanley Grams and one for Mike Peterson.
I think you sent copies of all that to us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'll make the motion that we approve those variance requests.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Hey Bob, while you're walking up here, someone was at one of your meetings that is from my district and complimented you and the planning and zoning on what a great job that you guys do and how thoroughly researched, and that they were very impressed. And
That's good to hear.
yeah, it was a huge compliment.
Great.
Good job, keep it up.
You don't hear that message.
You want both
Just this one.
Just this one.
All 3 of us.
You need a motion on the building permits too?
Yes, please.
I make a motion to approve all zoning permits.
Go ahead, Justin.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, thanks.
Yeah, hey Bob, real quick before you go, just to kind of set the record straight too for some of the commissioners, I know, and I apologize too, I know Mike kind of got a little bit harsh on there just to kind of set the record, so I just wanted to give Bob a chance here real quick. What Mike's talking about with the Skyline Materials, and as far as I know, it wasn't necessarily just Bob making that decision, it was the
That's the Board of Adjustment.
Board of Adjustment that made that call. It wasn't, so Mike was kind of stretching that one a little bit, so I just wanted to just kind of set the record straight. And Bob had showed us too on last Friday with the Skyline, they sloped it back and reseeded it and stuff. So a lot of what happened over there was resolved, but just want to let you guys know too that it wasn't just Bob making it, but it was the Board of Adjustment.
That's always the
So-
board, yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted
Thank you.
to put the record straight there a little bit, that it's a little bit cloudy there, so it wasn't just Bob, and I don't kind of
No, I
said it that way, so I
don't make
apologize.
any of those decisions on variance. That's Board of Adjustment.
Yeah,
And that was 4 years ago.
yeah,
And they brought it into compliance within a year, so.
yeah,
Sounds good, thank you, Mike.
Thanks.
yeah.
Okay, Carol. Now is when we can bring out the 15 pages, 23 pages, you said?
23 pages. The August financial report I emailed out to you. I guess, in looking at it, especially your departmental budget, you see there's a lot of red, and it ends up being in the salaries line items. And I just wanted to clarify that because August had 3 pay periods, it's going to take until the end of the year for those to not show as being over budget. but it's typical. We had the same thing because January had 3 pay periods, so, by June, it kind of evened out, and now we're back into that where it's showing over. And each department has the same thing showing up. There really isn't anything in any of the departments. There were some purchases of larger items made. So our August does show that we spent more cash than in other months, but when budgeted purchases are made, that's what's going to happen, especially for big ticket items. The bottom line on all the budgets, because we're not going to get any tax settlement money now until November, it's going to show that we're spending more than we should, but we really aren't.
Yeah, I questioned some of the things to Carol too, and you did explain that very well about the fact that you can't really judge those red lines till the end of the year when it balances out the whole budget.
And typically, we do not restrict purchases based on a line item being over budget. Department should notify you if they're going to spend over that budget, as long as they have it in the bottom line, so that they don't go over the bottom line for the year. And that's typically what we've done here. We haven't enforced specific line items to get every approval for every item.
So if it's budgeted for and it goes over, they would notify you.
They should.
And you didn't see any of that?
And you can see on our trial balance, when you look at general revenue, we are below our beginning cash level, and that's because we won't get our tax settlement money now until November, but we continue to spend money. And I guess I didn't bring up last year's August reports. I'm pretty sure it would show the same thing. But you can see in the actual this month where we spent $682,000 as opposed to $873,000 for the entire year. So August was a big month in terms of the extra pay period and some capital purchases being made. And Highway, of course, has lots of project money coming in, so theirs looks really good.
From the state funding.
Right. Human Services is pretty much even. So that's pretty much the August financial report, if anyone has any questions. If there were any specific departments you noticed questions.
Any questions on the August report?
Okay. Then we'll move on to the actual budget amendment request forms. And there were 3 submitted, and one was from Highway because they came in under on the purchase of major equipment, but they're over on the repair costs, so we requested a transfer of $80,000 from one line item to the other there. Rick Frank brought in his retrofit of the van body, and that was $5,000, so we increased his projects account by $5,000. And then the other budget amendment has to do with all the different salary things that have happened this year with people taking different coverages for health insurance, the additional employees. I budgeted out for like the remainder of the year so that our budgets do show what's been approved by the board. So that's why I'm requesting those amendments.
I think everybody had copies of that. Budget. So we need a motion to approve the budget amendments.
I'll move to approve budget amendments.
Second?
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So then, the proposed budget and proposed levy need to be adopted. And I sent out the sheet that I also printed a copy of that was probably easier so you have an idea. Human Services from the last spreadsheet that was sent out, they did decrease it by approximately $50,000. It may or may not be an expense in the future. It could come from fund balance, or we could adjust the budget within and just be over. They have budget deficit when we adopted the final budget. So in comparison to our 2014 levy, if we were not to take into consideration any additional expenses, we would need to raise the levy 3.573% to balance the budget. If we were to add COLA increase for employees and FTE for IT, that would bring the levy need to 5.715%. And I've given you different scenarios for different levels of levy increases. Each side with no increases.
Right. Well, I move that we set the preliminary budget at 0%.
Is there a second? Motion fails for lack of a second. Well, I know we do have, you haven't gone through negotiations yet anyway for next year, but cost of living, I know today I heard again that electricity and utilities are going up 3.5%. So I do agree that employees who are backbone of our service do need a cost of living raise, but that's still under negotiation. So I think Justin and Dana are on that committee for negotiations.
Justin.
Steve?
Yeah.
Okay. So we,
I just have a little question. If we weren't paying an employee for a good chunk of this year, is that money still there that we could take it and move it to pay for our IT person for next year?
There is some savings in a department, but there was an adjustment made to another employee in that department, which pretty much, I can find the bottom line of that.
so we could move it from one department to another department with a budget amendment.
Yes. And that would cover,
Part of the year, while they get the LETG up and running before we can start.
well, that savings is in this year. So it will revert into fund balance if there's something that's not used this year,
Okay.
in which case you could not
So-
levy for that amount for next year to make up for that.
Right, so that would mean that we have a possibility of being able to cover that person. We would
I
say,
wouldn't say there's that
Okay.
much savings there to cover an entire position.
no, but I mean, it could go,
It could reduce the need.
right, so when we say this, with adding that other person, it would be a 5 point something increase. If we would go with a less increase in our levy, it wouldn't mean that we couldn't have that person. Okay.
What we basically do is we set a levy that we could be reducing from by December 31st. This is our preliminary budget. We cannot go over it, but we can reduce it. So we set our levy, proposed levy for 5%. We can't go over that, but we can go down from there after we do the final budget. But the 5% would be what would go up to the Truth and Taxation meeting, because that's proposed. I'm just telling you, we can't go over, we have to stay under. But, and I think we can do that. We didn't actually put in for some of these appropriations the requested amounts at this point, so that is possible. And
But some of those aren't in here either.
Right.
Right, yeah,
The soil and water appropriation hasn't.
right.
that's the only one that's not in here, right?
I think so.
Did the library, what they were asking, go into this? Okay. And what was the other
The
appropriation?
Simcat, the Smith, the
Smith.
pretty much all.
Ag Society.
Ag Society, Historical Society.
Carol, could I ask you one thing?
the River Soil Water Conservation District, is that the additional money that didn't go in, or just the?
Just the additional that they requested.
It stayed the same as it was last year
Right.
at this point.
Right. That's 2014, that's this year.
Any further questions for Carol on all these pages here? I went through them.
I spent a lot of time on
Me
these
too.
pages. That's why I came up with the questions that I had.
Well, we need to set our preliminary levy. What's the wishes of the board here?
Nobody wishes
Nobody.
to raise taxes.
Exactly.
We all pay our taxes too, but along with, we're a service-related thing. A lot of what we have to provide, we have to provide. We're cut as far as, I mean, as we went through these budgets, it's like, what more can we trim? And still, you need to provide the services. That's why people pay their taxes, is to have those services. So to go from a 3.5 to a 3%, we'd have to cut 67,000 from our budget, correct?
Right, and that would include, the salary increases that you're talking are all on this side. This includes no changes in terms of that on the left-hand side.
No changes in salary or anything.
Right.
So then instead, we're looking at a $318,000 cuts.
Well, not necessarily cuts, because salary increases haven't been granted. Just in anticipation, so.
Well, our fund balance should increase this next year because of the savings from this past year on some of the purchases and some of the employees transitions that we've had. So can we use some of that fund balance to balance our budget?
And I had
You
sent
did send
out
us a
fund balance summary.
Right.
yes.
And then with our CPA going down almost 22,000, that's 22,000 we have to pick up that we didn't have to last year.
Right.
And that's just that much of a cut in our state aid. I read through the things of the counties getting flood aid 3 times to make sure our name wasn't on there.
Yeah, that really hurt us when the CPA went down. That's a big drop. So that's what the state is trying to do, push more into local control
Yeah.
Without the funding.
without, yeah, and mandating services without funding.
I think every county's in the same position.
Everybody is.
I talked to some yesterday.
Yeah, some that went zero before, are like, that wasn't a good deal to do.
One of our neighboring counties, their insurance went up too, which we don't have.
That was a good thing this year.
Yeah.
But you don't know how long you can stay on that.
Well, we need to move forward here. We need to set our preliminary levy. Is there?
Three wouldn't be safe.
I really think we have to look at 3.5 just to go between these numbers on the right-hand side.
I wouldn't want to go with the highest ones. I think
No.
we need to show the taxpayers we're trying to save.
Right, because
We're trying to do it.
We're trying to do
Trying
it,
to
and
save
I
money.
really think 3.5 is,
3.573.
Or four.
Right, and last year we did have the levy limits in place where we were only allowed to
Right.
levy 3.52.
Mhm.
But there's no levy limits this year.
What's a four sound like?
that's because we're hearing fours. Did you hear fours and fives in other counties? Yeah, that's what I was hearing too, was fours and fives. Yeah.
And we had that also, we went with the zero levy, increased the 1 year,
Mm-hmm.
and then the next year we ended up having those.
What did you pay for it next year?
Right. And I would rather, if we have to raise taxes, I don't want to suddenly hit someone with that because we went too low.
I'd like a 3.5 myself, and I'd like to see it come down though, some, if we could.
We got from now until December to work
I
on
really would like to see.
areas. And we can have each department to go back and reassess
Mhm.
their needs again, if they can let it go for another year or.
What did we go with last year?
3.52.
We do need to look at 4 this year.
Guess that's where I'd go.
4.
Yeah. And then really try to,
I'm really trying
Mhm.
to lower it by that, but just because you can't suddenly go broke.
Well, we would end up using more fund balance.
I know,
Yeah,
but
that's what
still,
happens,
We need to
but
balance it.
still eventually
You need
that's what
that.
We need,
happens.
we have to have a certain
fund
percentage
balance.
in unbalanced.
Well, it's the county's policy, there's not a state statute that says you're
Mhm.
required to, but.
it's a
just,
good idea.
You know,
Yeah.
it's
It's just a damn good idea.
Well, if you don't have fund balance by March, you wouldn't have any money to pay your bills.
Right.
Right.
Doesn't the state auditor want us to have 5 months though?
Well, they kind of recommend 50% of your current year expenditures. And, we're getting to that point. We were lower than that, but we are getting up to that point. So where we're at a comfortable fund balance level. So I really wouldn't probably recommend using a lot of the fund balance.
Right.
Not that I really, really want to do this, but somebody has to take the bull by the horns. I would say, I'd make a motion that we increase the tax levy by 4%.
I'll second that.
And for discussion, as always, I'll just step on my soapbox for 2 minutes here. I know we got the,
I'm sorry.
These ones, the timers.
I get a little. Just as we move forward, I know everybody's cognizant, and Carol brought out the potential projections through 2017, showing anywhere from 874,000 to 1,062,000 potential increase by 2017, or roughly almost another 10% increase. So obviously, we're all cognizant of that, and keep that in the back of our heads that it's going to be looking like this is the trend over the next couple of years. Taxes are going to continue to rise. With that, is one of the only board members that's a farmer, I gotta talk on the farmer side of things. I've had a lot of farmers that have come to me too that, you know, when we do raise taxes, farmers being the largest landowners in the county and obviously have a lot of, majority of the structures, they're the ones that are getting the hardest. I've heard a lot of people that have said, well, taxes went up, but my taxes didn't go up. Well, where do you live? Well, I live in the city, and okay, well, there's some other contributing factors depending on your school districts and all these other things. But then you get a lot of the landowners that, I mean, like Tom David was saying, a lot of the taxes shifted from the cities out into the rural communities. So a lot of the farmers got drilled. Personally, my taxes, I know, went up 37% last year, and a lot of other people's went up substantially. So just being cognizant that we don't forget about the people that are really paying for a lot of this. When we increase 3%, it doesn't mean everybody's going 3%. A lot of these landowners are going up significant amounts. And
There's a
obviously,
lot of that
corn-
too, Justin, is the school districts and
Yep.
that,
Yep,
because
it is.
that portion of mine went up, but the county part did.
Yep, and I'm just saying, we gotta be cognizant that some of these farmers are getting hit awfully hard, whether it's the school districts or the county or whatever, and with lower grain prices and everything kind of going down, it gets a lot more difficult. I don't want to see any of these small farmers losing things because taxes are getting out of control. So, and I know you guys are cognizant of that, I don't need to keep repeating it, but just so that we keep that in the back of our head, that we do have some people that are picking up a big amount of this tax levy, that
I own
they're
farm
getting
land.
squeezed.
I own
Yeah,
farm
you
land.
do too, you do too. So anyway, but
I agree.
anyway, so that's it. So this, just so that people know that we're cognizant of that.
Well, I think when we set it, whatever we set, we are going to work at bringing it down by
Yes.
December, which we have done. I
We
mean,
need-
you know,
we need to work real
but we
hard.
can't go above it. We need to protect, hopefully our population will increase also, which is a plus for us. But, and we're bringing in more businesses. Sounds like EDA's been very active on that. So, anyway, there's a motion and a second.
Requesting roll call, please.
Roll call vote.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
No.
District 3,
Aye.
District 4,
What are we, what, 4%?
4%,
Aye.
District 5.
Yes. Okay, I'm motion.
Yeah, sorry.
Hey, we voted for you.
Backwards.
That's okay.
Motion carried.
And I'm 4.
Yeah.
There's not a lot here, it's 3, 5, and 4.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
And I will actually go prepare the resolution to the village budget.
And we do need to, Carol, you did a very good job at keeping us informed. This is a great report. And we do need to continue to review it. So if you get any updates for us to help us lower the levy, we'd appreciate it.
Okay, and I'll put together the cost savings on those positions.
Okay,
That
that
would
would be really good.
That would help too.
Thank you.
Back to unfinished business, anything more in the courthouse, jail? Tess, do you have anything more in the jail as far as cashing the,
Not at this time, but I do have some other, a couple of other items for you.
Okay.
on the courthouse? Is, I mean, the courthouse issues, jail issues?
No, Commissioner, but I do have a couple of other personnel items real quickly for you.
Yeah, you're on the agenda for that. This is just some unfinished business or.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
I wasn't.
Oh, I didn't, I don't have it.
No, Commissioner, I know
It's
you
on
don't.
closed
It's not-
session.
Mhm.
Okay. Did you had other personnel issues that are not included in the closed session, is that what you're stating?
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay. Why don't we let her bring up this stuff that's coming forward, Tess? We saved our closed session for the last so that the newspaper doesn't have to sit here for 3 hours.
Yeah, and, okay, just real quickly, corrections. I recommend the acceptance of the resignation of Denise Schaefer, who's a B21 technical clerk, when effective the end of business day, October 2nd. Denise has been with us, with the county. She certainly will be missed. She's been with the county since September 6, 2005, and we want to thank her for her service. We also and wish her well. I've been in conversation with Renee Patterson up in Winona, who was Denise's supervisor. And we recommend starting a search immediately and do an expedited search to replace her. The county has an agreement with the state that that the clericals, we pay for 50%, I believe it is, half the cost of the clerical support, so we get some reimbursement when we run through our payroll.
50% we get?
I
from the
believe
state?
that's my understanding. I've never seen the contract. It was executed several years ago. But
I thought we paid full. I think we paid full, clerical, don't we?
I just
I think it's
checked
only the
now.
probation people we get.
I think you're right.
Yeah, Denise is a union employee.
She is. She's an AFSCME employee.
I don't think we get any reimbursement of that.
Yes.
You would know, you would
I'm
know,
almost
Charlotte. That was
positive.
long before I was here. I was just told that, but I don't know for certain.
It was my
And I wasn't
understanding,
told
too,
that
that-
by the state. That was
Yeah,
within our
I don't
office
think
and
we-
managers told me.
We pay the total salary for the clerical position. The probation is 50%, if that.
If that.
Okay, I'm in error.
So can they cover her position through the probation office? Do we need to?
We need to replace her. There's 1.5 FTE in the probation office for clerical. And we're recommending that Denise be replaced as she is the 1.0 FTE that's in that office.
So we have a person in there half-time right now?
Full-time
besides-
Yes.
Okay.
We have another half-time employee there.
So would this half-time employee consider going full-time?
That is not an option on the table at this time. She's not interested
So
in
could we
full-time
replace
and-
Denise with another half-time position and make it one full-time position between two people?
No. I've had this conversation with Patterson, and there's a need for a full-time person in there to do the duties. The duties are slightly different also, but very similar, but they do slightly different things.
So this Renee Patterson said we need a full-time position there,
Yes.
but we
She
have a
actually-
half-time position already.
We have 1.5 FTE in there. We have a 1.0 FTE resigning. That leaves us with a 1.0 FTE vacancy.
Okay, but maybe I'm not seeing through this. We couldn't have just one full-time person. We
No,
have to
the
have
workload
1.5
is-
by what? Contract? Is it by contract that we
It was
need?
by workload. We have a workload that supports 1.5 FTE in the office.
Okay.
Is that
I get it.
okay? And we have, I don't think their workload is going down at all. And certainly, there's no
Business is
evidence.
good.
Pardon?
Business is good,
Um,
you call it that.
Well, I think first of all, we need to accept resignation of Denise. Probably, because
I move to accept the resignation.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
And thank you to Denise. And do we want to recommend a search to fill the one full-time position?
Looks like we have to. Move to begin a search.
I'll second it.
Further discussion? I think, I'd like to just think it would be worth asking Ms. Renee if we could get by with one full-time. Instead of one-
I've
Are you
had lengthy conversations with her.
Okay,
Um,
and it's not an option.
If there is, in fact, we're doing an expedited search, that would be wasn't going to be our proposal. That means that the ads would go out this weekend, the position would be held open for 2 weeks. If there is such a need, we cannot hold it open for a month waiting. We will be rating the files and then pulling together a search committee that's comprised of, I've recommended a member the county attorney's office, the sheriff's office, and court admin will sit on the interviews, as well as Renee would come down. We will do those interviews for the position. If there is a gap at all, Nancy Welch, who's the half-time, has agreed for up to 2 weeks that she would go as much as full-time if she had to fill it in.
Well, since we're still in the discussion, can we possibly do cross-training with the attorney's office and do some of their clerical positions to help out?
That has not been explored. They have.
I mean, we've talked cross-training departments to help with each other rather than hiring. I don't know. I'm just bringing it up for discussion.
I don't know what the county attorney's staff has for available hours. But they are both less than 1 FTE each. I'm not certain if there's what their workload is like. I don't know what their interest in going the county attorneys. I don't know if there's any potential conflicts of interest as well. I have to check that out. I don't know what those would be.
We will be getting a new county attorney, maybe the workload will change with the new attorney. Who knows? You never know.
That's true. We will have a change in that office anyway. It could
And then
reevaluate
they come in and do things totally
workload.
different.
Well, there is a motion and a second to hire, start a search for full-time technical clerk for the corrections department. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
And there is just one, DNR called, this is just an information item. Our office, I think, just probably looking for the office to call. And since we don't have the central office for this, they called our office and I talked with them. They've identified an invasive species called Japanese knotweed in Houston County. They have a grant that would provide for the mitigation and eradication of this species. They have identified that there are some plants located on county property. They're putting maps together, I believe would be also happy to come talk with you. They would like to begin their eradication plan yet this fall, but because it's on county property, we want to make sure that the commissioners were well informed of that and that their plan and would be working with us. I think they have like a year project with it. It involves both cutting the plant down, treating it while it's cut down, and then treating it again, I believe, as it grows. And so they were as a...
What department would this normally come through?
It's supposed to go with that aquatic invasive species with soil and water. With Ann.
And I have referred them to Ann. They're very familiar with Ann as well, so I told them to contact her as a new person as well. They want to make sure it got on the board agenda. And Ann used to work for the DNR, and this person knew Ann, and I said that's probably where this should be. And they also wanted to go under the board right away. So.
There was something that Ann's coming in next week with the invasive species grant.
So maybe that's it.
It was on our,
Miranda, they were talking October
it's on
already.
the agenda
so
for next meeting.
I recommend that they call over there right away.
That sounds good.
Did you say that was Japanese knotweed?
Not wood.
Not wood.
That's good, thank you. Commissioner reports, Dana?
Yesterday I attended the Southeastern Minnesota Water Resource Board in Orinoco again. We were mainly on budgets, or the budget for the Southeastern. Our dues will be going up $500. It was voted on by the guys over there. It wasn't unanimous by any means. So it is what it is. And it's a good group to enjoy visiting with the guys afterwards. We haven't talked about our different things that are going on. Learn a lot of those things.
That's for sure.
And as far as the, you told me to talk to Ann about that soil and water, the extra money they wanted. I wasn't able to get a hold of her at times, but talking to some other people, that's money that she could get through grants if she wants. They want 4 more positions, correct? Am I right? I think that's what they said.
I don't have it in front of me right now, but yeah.
Years ago, the counties used to fund them, but nowadays the soil and water is getting funded by grants.
Mhm.
So I think that's something that I would say that we need to probably not do that and see if she can, there is grants out for new positions. That's how they should do their funding instead of relying so much on the counties. That's just my soapbox. Justin had his, I get mine. So I recommend that we don't, that we look hard at asking her to look for grants, different ways of getting money, other than us.
Sounds good.
That's all I had last week.
Justin?
No, nothing. The Friday meeting on Friday. Was it Friday? Yeah. That we did. Yeah. Other than that,
I had some CAC board last night.
Nothing
Interesting.
exciting?
One for the budget. Always the sequestration, hitting it kind of hard. Looking for ways to, like donations would be a good thing to get in for the group. Always look for that. They do a pretty good job, an awful good job at getting grants and seeking grants that really apply to their type of works. But it's tight, really tight. Probably by later, get you guys up with donations, looking for donations.
I'll be right next to you looking for some for someone too.
Something back.
I want the belly. I was at AMC policy meetings in Alexandria on Wednesday and Thursday. And just a reminder to everyone, our district meetings are October 27th, so that everyone has that on their calendar. We talked a lot about working to build on the programs that are working and shifting focus into ones that are working, which just makes sense. We talked a lot about mental health financing and in the justice system and how it affects everyone's budgets, how hard it is to just come up with that kind of money. They're talking about having statewide response teams for crisis mental health issues. It's one of the things that you might be hearing about at district meetings too, but it's kind of hard to see how it would actually come together in the rural counties out this way. So it was interesting. We talked about it a lot because AMC is really all about representing the entire state, and they really look to get the attention of every county, not just by population, but by the fact we're one of 87, which is something that I really do appreciate that they do it. We also learned there's 73,000 children in Minnesota that are living in households that are at less than 50% of poverty. And that's a lot of kids that live at that, and things that we can do to help that number switch. Talked about job opportunities in Minnesota, that our unemployment rate is low, so it's hard to draw more businesses in, and we tend to just shift our qualified employees from one position to another, and that we're not generating enough new people, and that we need to look at how we're educating our kids differently so that we're gearing them more for the market they need to be ready for and start when they're young, which totally makes sense. The whole 2 days was really interesting, and it was also interesting to be able to listen to the two people running for governor talk in regards to the subject matter that we had been discussing. One of them referred to St. Cloud as rural Minnesota, and it's the third largest city, and that took back a lot. There was a lot of discussion after he talked about it. It would be the person who's not governor right now. And so he talked about growing up in the, rural, understanding rural Minnesota from St. Cloud, and that was just, it was interesting. And then they really pointed out a lot of the things that they did, and there were articles in all the papers. I know the Minneapolis paper and stuff had articles about the presentations that they did up there, and it was really interesting to listen to them. And then Friday I went to the ribbon cutting for the Vesterheim Apartments in Preston. It's been like a 6 or 7 year project to get these low-income elderly housing redone. It started way before I came onto this board. So when we went there Friday, I got lost on the way there because of all the road construction and stuff. And I got there right after the ribbon cutting, but that's okay. I toured all the facilities, and just to see what they've done, just changes in it that have made these places feel really good. And then we had a meeting after that, and we're working on what projects to do for the next year. And they talked about, like looking for them. So if you guys hear of things in Houston County that, we can go in and look at and assess. So if there's, housing issues in Houston County, and you hear anything about it, let me know, because we can get people together to look at them and see what we can do. I'm always looking, and I've had them come and look at a couple things, but we didn't qualify. And last night I was at Hiawatha Valley Mental Health, and we went through the program abuse preventative plan for all of their places. And we heard an update from Goodhue County where they're just starting Hiawatha Mental Health Services there. And as you hear what they're looking to get that we already have had for a long time, you don't realize how fortunate we were to be able to have those services. Okay, that's it. I was busy.
We were busy. I did go to that MCIT workshop on the open meeting law and data privacy sessions. Very interesting, and I really recommend everybody go to it. It was really geared to it.
I'm going if anybody wants to go.
This is why.
Because they had a lot of information, all presented by MCIT, protecting ourselves, And they had lots of sessions on, of course, workman's comp and some of those other issues too. But I mainly attended the ones referring to meetings, data privacy, what people are requesting information, what we can give them, what we can't give them, that kind of thing. So they did give me a full manual, so I'll have it here in case anybody wants to look at it. But they have them every year, I guess, and this is the first time I've actually attended that one. Where I had the Praxan meeting along with Justin, and I got some information from Barb Beeson on the jail survey that she wanted to wait until she gets the stuff from our website also. But I can give copies and have that for next week too for everybody. You must have been brought up at EDA. Did you have an EDA meeting this week or no?
We went Friday.
We had one on
Wednesday was
Wednesday,
not a quorum.
but they didn't have a quorum there, so we have one on Friday.
Okay.
So we'll be looking at.
You'll get the backs then too. And it's very interesting. It's a good thing we're doing this to get people's opinions. So, okay. And we also have our county township annual banquet next Thursday, I believe, Thursday evening. So I think everybody got notice on that. I think that's all I have right now. How about approval of the claims?
Move to approve the claims, human services, and license center disbursements.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That was one thing they told me at that open meeting, you always ask if it's opposed, no matter what it is. So, okay.
So you got two gavels now.
Terry Snowden, I don't know if anybody knows him from
Yeah.
Spring
Yeah,
Grove.
Terry.
He made
He gave
that
me
for me. So I brought it. Yeah, and I'm ready to see after some of the comments I've received. Okay, anything else to come before the board in our regular meeting before we go into closed session? We don't actually adjourn, we
Go into closed session.
Okay, I move that we go into closed session.
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
We're now back in open session, I understand, and for the public record, that pursuant to 13D.05, subdivision 2B, we went into closed session for the preliminary consideration of allegations of charges against an individual subject to its authority. No determinations of any nature were made during the closed session. Thank you very much for your
Can
time.
we do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?